Thank you. First off, what's your name?
Elmer.
Elmer. When Elmer hit that high note, and he was like on top of the beatboxing, and then the whole group, I was like, damn, I'm happy I don't have to go after that guy. And then Rhonda came up and crushed it, and I was like, damn, I gotta go after her? So I think we all felt that way, though. It was really fun sitting in the room with everybody who's speaking here. I feel very humbled to be amongst all these creative minds. And I wanted to play a quick video to give a little bit of background on what my main, I guess, life is from a day-to-day basis, and then take it in a totally different direction after I play that. So just press the play button here, or let's see, the forward. There we go. I had thought about the idea of building a brand that all year round was making an impact. I thought it was kind of gimmicky that these companies would do a 1-month campaign and then it would be over. And so from a business perspective, I said, why not do it longer? And from a personal perspective, I said, you know, we should be doing a lot more. It was pretty magical to have a group of people in their early 20s who were just passionate enough to make it happen and just naive enough to not be scared to go out on our own and just start selling out of the back of our cars. We just started hitting the streets. We loaded up the 168 cases that were sitting in a public storage unit at the time. People will buy our wine for the first time because they hear about the cause or they're somehow attached to one of our causes. But the reason they come back and buy multiple bottles or a case is because the wine's so good.
Our commitment to our quality of wine is just as important as our commitment to the causes that we support. By really building the repeat customer, purchasing us as an everyday wine, that is in turn creating a bigger impact for all the causes that we support.
In 2010, we were at a trade show and a gentleman by the name of Michael came up and introduced himself, said he'd seen us out in the market and really liked what we're doing and thought he could help us make better quality wine. About an hour later, when the trade show was over, we went back and looked at his business card and said, wow, that was Michael Mondavi. About 9 months later, we had structured a partnership where we co-create our wines.
Robert Mondavi Jr. blends all of ONEHOPE Wine's core varietals. Even though they produce their own fabulous wines here out of the Michael Mondavi Vineyard, we have a wine exclusively to us at ONEHOPE. The sale of some of our ONEHOPE wine varietals have actually been able to provide over 250,000 meals for children in need, over 1,800 mammograms for women without health insurance, and over 20,000 trees have been planted in U.S. forests. We're really proud of the impact that we've been able to make, and we owe it all to our customers for supporting us along the way.
For the last couple of years, we've been in the top 100 consumer product companies. We also won Impact 100 Social Business of the Year. And as far as a wine company, we've cracked the top 300 out of 8,000 wineries in the U.S. By volume.
We've actually been able to give over $1 million to our nonprofit partners in the past 5 years just through the wine sales alone. If you've ever purchased a bottle of ONEHOPE wine or even just told the story, you're part of something bigger than just building a brand. You're part of a movement to really give back as a part of something that you do every day of your life.
So usually, my background is that's where we pretty much are today. We're probably 5 months after that video, and we've actually just crossed the 1 million meals donated point, so we're gaining steam, and that's just one of our varietals, so it's very exciting. When I talked to the group here at Creative Week, they were like, hey, I know it's going to be really hard for you because we know how you're wired, so don't pump your brand. And then I just did that. But it really is to give you context for the whole rest of this. So the other 80% of the time is spent on talking about vulnerability and creativity in my journey to getting to that point. A lot of times I'm up in front of a room and I'm taking the power stance, and I've got these boss kind of cufflinks that I put on just to remind myself and empower myself. But at the end of the day, I think all of us, if you do look yourself in the mirror, which I realized I do very rarely, but I tried it as something while I was writing this up, and I was like, wow, I haven't looked at myself in quite a while. I'm usually just running out of the house. My hair is like, I have a big Jufro that I usually sport. I cut it today at the Bronx at the barber shop, trying to support the local community and everything. And yeah, that deserves applause. So today I'm going to actually take that power pose. I'm going to sit down for this talk, and I'm going to go in a different direction than I have in most of my other talks, which is opening up to how I got to where I am, and how kind of try to intertwine creativity and how that's played a part. So first off, before I go on, because I meant to, I really wanted to thank everybody at Creative Week. It's awesome that you guys are doing this for the world in general, but it's also really awesome, and I'm really humbled to get to be a part of it, so thank you guys. So vulnerability, I wrote 3 chapters of my life and have a little title for each one, and it kind of leads up to where that video is now, and hopefully gives you a little bit of insight into one individual, and I'm one among, billions of people, obviously, and I have my story, and everybody else has their own individual, unique puzzle that they're building. And one of the most interesting things of building a company has been building my puzzle alongside everybody else building their puzzle, and then trying to put all our pieces together and make a big puzzle together. And it's a pretty crazy phenomenon when you try to be creative and then dynamically work with other people who are so creative. So Title 1 is creativity comes in all shapes and sizes. And so a little story about my childhood. I grew up in a mostly Hispanic neighborhood. I went to a kindergarten and first grade and preschool at a school where it was bilingual. So Spanish speaking and English speaking, which really meant that everybody spoke Spanish, but it was in America. So I was like the one white kid there, really. And so that was a big part of my growth. And I transferred schools in the 2nd grade. And I remember my mom getting a note that she had to come to school and meet with my teacher. And my teacher showed her, my recent tests, and I was doing really bad on all of them. And my mom knew that I was, a pretty sharp kid and moved pretty quickly. And she pulled out the one test and she goes, look at the first answer. Like, how do you get that wrong? It's, which one is different? Tiny, small, little, and big. And I had circled small. And she was like, how is small different? And I said, Mom, the first vowel in it is an A, and all the rest of them, it's an I. And she was like, So I said, and so here's my mom who's like, wow, that's actually really smart. And she always believed in me and battled for me and was like, I want you in advanced classes and stuff. And meanwhile, my teacher is like, I think your son has Asperger's. And she really did, because I had a lot of other weird things about me. I had tics where I would, all the time in class like that and have a big grimace on my face. And people would be like, what's going on? Or I'd grind my teeth and everything. And the weird thing was, I was conscious of this. I was conscious that I was like a strange kid and didn't fit in and wasn't cool. And I don't know if a lot of kids that age are aware of that, but I was aware of it. But I kept going, and that was part of my creative process. Is I looked at things very different. So then I go in and I have to have this oral test, and they're testing me for all these different things to make sure I can stay in a normal class and not have to go into stay a grade behind. And she's testing my vocabulary, and she's going through all these different questions. She says, okay, we're gonna see how many words you can name in a minute so we can see what your vocabulary is. Go. And I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this woman looks at me. I got to like 130, and she's like, stop. Not how fast can you count, how many words? And I go, all of those are words. And she was like, okay. And so creativity comes in all shapes and sizes, and I had to come to an appreciation that was okay, that's how my brain worked as far as that went. Now flash forward, Title 2, necessity is the mother of all innovation. And really, or invention. And when I think about invention, I think of words like innovation. I think of words like creativity.
And I really do think, necessity is that driver a lot of times, and creativity comes when you're either solving big challenges or it comes when you're tired of the status quo and you want to create something better than what exists. And so when I entered into high school, still had those tics. I know it's probably hard to believe, but I was a pretty heavy-set kid too. But I was an athlete, and I realized, I said, you know what? When I go into high school, I'm going to recreate myself, and I'm gonna figure out, who I am. This is what I want to be. And I set myself out. I said, you know what? I'm going to be super good at school and nerdy and just own that, and I'm going to be a stellar athlete. And those were the two things I really focused on. And because of it, I was able to accomplish it. And so when I thought about, it's the mother of, the necessity is the mother of all invention. It's actually the drive to impress women might be the mother of all innovation and invention for men. And I think it's parallel actually to women in general actually really do, all joking aside, drive innovation and invention in this world so much. And I think it's something that we talk about more and more. We have a really progressive society in America. I have a company that's 75% women, so I'm lucky to be around super innovative women who are just so creative. I grew up with a really strong mom as an icon for me in the business world. I'm the middle boy between an older sister and a younger sister. So all those things help me to recreate myself. And that's something that stuck with me is, hey, between junior high and high school, I had the opportunity to think creatively, take the opportunity, and just recreate myself. And a big part of that was sports. And in sports, I got a lot of coaching. A lot of my coaches are some of the biggest mentors and have brought me to who I am. But also in sports and cruising into college, I played football at Cal, and I ended up walking onto the rugby team there. And Cal Rugby is a national championship program. They win almost every year, not this year, but almost every year. And I had never played rugby before, and it was a very, very humbling situation. Here I am. I came from playing college football. I went over to try out for rugby. I thought I was super strong and fast, and I just got my ass kicked. And I learned how important it is to be able to create dynamically with the person next to you, because it's such a fluid game. And the idea that if you're thinking about an overlap and some other guy's thinking about something else, you run into each other. And so that was something big that I took with me as I rolled out of college. And then the third chapter, as far as creativity goes, is with great creativity comes great responsibility. So college, junior year, I get this bright idea. I have I'm at UC Berkeley. All my buddies are these freakishly smart engineer guys and stuff. We go out, we decide, one of my friends has this amazing laser printer that he bought, and I start looking at how he's printing. I'm like, damn, that is really, really high quality. I bet you could print like really legitimate tickets on that thing, huh? And he's like, yeah, probably. And I'm like, putting it together. Long story short, we go out and get this perforator that can perforate, and the Stanford Cal big game's coming up, and that ticket's a pretty hot item. And we were really creative, and we created 500 fake tickets. So I'm sure I'm about to get pulled out of the room by some cops or something. And we sold 500 tickets. I sold 500 tickets. And I remember, I was really proud of this. I rang up like $8,000 really quickly. And I was selling them, cheap. Everybody got in. Nobody goes to Cal games anyways. And we sold all of them. And I remember I told my mom. I don't know why I decided to do that. But I was like, Mom, I just made $8,000 so quick. We made these amazing tickets. Look at these. And she was like, are you kidding? Like, that's stealing, Jake. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess that kind of is. And I was like, I'm going to look at it from the utilitarian perspective. It put more people in the seats. It made a better crowd for Cal. They probably sold more food. So everybody wins here, Mom. And she's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And so I I turned around and donated all of it because I felt super guilty about it, not for the right reasons, just because I felt super guilty. And when I donated, I actually felt really good about that. And it later kind of parlayed into what I ended up doing my senior year, which I was in a fraternity, and I was the social chair at the time, and I got nominated to be our philanthropy chair as well. So I had this great idea to combine the two budgets. Every party we threw was going to be a fundraiser. And so here I took that creativity and I actually channeled it in the right direction. And our fraternity raised more money than all the rest of the fraternities in the entire school combined. And it was a really big step for me. I remember going to the Oakland Children's Hospital and handing them one of those big checks, and I was super pumped up about it. And I was like, wow, I was able to do this by doing what I love doing, which is socializing and having a great time and everything like that. And so that was what kind of ticked the idea for ONEHOPE, or it was a little piece of it. All of those were little building blocks that I think created my perspective of the world. And that's what I think we take away is creativity ranges in all different directions. Every person who comes up here is creative in a different way, whether it's music or art or building a business or branding or whatever it is. And it comes in all shapes and sizes. And a lot of it's spurred by necessity. A lot of it's spurred by thinking that there's a better way to do things. And with that, comes a lot of responsibility for each of us as creators. That we're creating things in a progressive direction that make the world a better place. And I'll close it because I'm already over time, and you guys gave me a minute, with saying that, one of the things that I love most about our ability to create is thinking about both the past and the future and trying to balance those things. And I live in a space somewhere in between fear and hope on a regular basis. And I'm not afraid to say that. I think all of us face self-doubt at times and are scared at times, especially if you're trying to build a business and make payroll and things like that. We all face it. And I live in the middle of fear and self-doubt because I feel that sense of fear every time a friend gets cancer or passes away from something, or something random happens to the best people that I know. And it makes me fear that finite time that we have in this world, and that every day you don't get that back. That you got that day and you made those choices and you don't get it back. And then the hope comes with that every day we have a chance to recreate ourselves, just like I did, just like a lot of you guys did. And we're lucky for that. We live in a country where you can create a whole new city and develop a whole new community. We live in a country where you have tons of freedoms to start a business when you're 23, where you have the opportunity to make choice. And we live in a world that's progressing and giving more and more civil rights all the time. And so there's a ton of hope. And I think the balance between those two things and keeping both of them in perspective is what's really allowed me to create the right things in this world and make the right choices. And so I appreciate the opportunity to get to share my story with you guys, and thank you so much.